What is up, guys? This is Ben with 2020 election predictions, and today I'm going to talk about the vice presidential debate that's going to happen in about 30 minutes. So, um, if y'all are here kind of for the first presidential debate, I honestly think that probably had a bigger impact than I had anticipated before. If we look at the betting odds, if we look at the post-debate polls, I think we can see that Biden did have a post-presidential debate bump. However, do presidential debates really matter? In my opinion, probably not. If we look in the past, I was reading a 538 article a day. I really don't think that the vice presidential debates will move the needle that much. However, 2020 could be different, and this is why I think that both of the presidential candidates are very old, the oldest in history. I mean, Joe Biden is 77. I believe he would be the oldest president in history, first term or second term. President Trump, I think he would be the second oldest second-term president, behind Ronald Reagan. But just in conclusion, both of the presidential candidates are very, very old. So I think there is a very, very likely scenario where either one of them doesn't last until 2024, and therefore that the vice presidential candidate would take the presidency, and that would either be Kamala Harris or Mike Pence. I think in 2016. So someone's asking about what was my opinion of the Pence Kaine debates. If we like overall, I think CNN did a poll of all the debates, and I honestly don't really trust the CNN debate polls. But they had Hillary Clinton winning all the presidential debates, but they had Mike Pence winning the vice presidential debate. I thought that Mike Pence definitely did better than Tim Kaine in the vice presidential debates. And kind of when you look at the polling, it wasn't necessarily on policy. It was more just about how each of the candidates presented themselves. And so I think this is definitely going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to be looking for after the 2020 presidential debate between Biden and Trump. I mean, it was just kind of an insult matchup. I think the vice presidential debate is going to be more policy focused. And I think that's what we saw in 2016. I definitely think that Mike Pence is going to try to steer it from kind of Trump the person, Trump the character, and it's going to try to focus more on policy, because I think that's definitely something that Pence can kind of view in a positive light, is kind of the policy that the Trump administration has put into place, whether that's economic policy, deregulation, or just a host of different other things that you definitely see in the Trump ads. However, I think what Kamala Harris the entire time, her strategy is going to be, I want to focus on Trump's presidency. I want to focus on coronavirus, and I wanted to focus on maybe how Trump has responded to race relations in the United States. And I think in one kind of common thing in the 2016 vice presidential debates is Tim Kaine was like, Donald Trump did that, and then Mike Pence was saying like, no, he didn't say this. He actually said this. And I think like one of his lines was like, if Donald Trump had actually done all the things that like you said he's done, blah 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 blah. So do I think a lot of people are going to tune into this debate? I definitely don't think as much as the presidential debate. I mean, just talking about it with my friends, some of them don't know that there is even a debate happening tonight. So I really kind of only think that the very kind of people who are interested in politics, who I definitely think already have their mind made up, are going to be watching tonight. I don't think a lot of swing voters are going to decide whether they're going to vote for Trump or Biden, based on the vice presidential debate, because I mean the vice president is definitely kind of not the main person who's making the policy. They're more in the periphery. If we go back to 2008, were people deciding between Biden, Joe Biden, Sarah Palin? No, they're deciding between Barack Obama and John McCain. And I mean, 2020 is not going to be that much different. I think people are kind of assuming that Biden's going to be a one-term president. So I think Kamala Harris would be kind of the natural candidate in 2024. But I really don't think that Biden's going to step down on his own. If he has health conditions or if he really has something, I mean, I do think that Biden's going to it would probably step down if he's kind of forced to. But I don't see Biden voluntarily kind of like stepping down on his own because I think a lot of people would see that as corrupt. And I just don't think it would be a great look to see kind of the first female vice president or the first female president getting there not because she was elected by the people, but because she was just put there in a position of power because like a man made the decision to do that. So I would definitely rather, and I think people would be definitely more excited to kind of see the first female president elected kind of by the people. And in 2024, I don't think that Biden's going to run for re-election. He's going to be 82 or 81. I definitely think that Kamala Harris will kind of be the person on that ticket. On the Republican side, I think it could be a host of different people. I think Mike Pence might try to run. I don't think he would win the primary. Some other names I've heard of are Dan Crenshaw, Nikki Haley, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Candace Owens, Donald Trump Jr. I definitely think that some of those names are better than others. But let's kind of go to the chat. I was worried about you. Yes, I'm sorry. I've been very busy lately. I'm obviously a student first. So I've kind of been slammed with different stuff and also job interviews too that I'm looking at. So that's just kind of an update on my life. Do you reconsider doing best case electoral college scenarios for both candidates as news are pouring in? I do think this is something that I'm going to do. We only have about 28 days until the election, so I definitely want to put out as much content as I can. I'm sorry that I haven't been doing that for the past week, but I would love for some of y'all's questions kind of on the vice presidential debate. Are y'all going to be watching, or is it something that's not very important to you? Personally, I don't think that anyone's going to make their mind up on who they're going to vote for, kind of based on this debate happening tonight. And frankly, I mean, I think for Biden, having Kamala Harris on the ticket is kind of an olive branch to female voters and also to the Black community. So I think that maybe is going to help energize the progressive base. But right now, I don't think Pence does a lot for Trump. I mean, I think Pence might kind of be like this calming character. Maybe some conservatives who don't like Trump as much. I think that Pence definitely helped them in 2016. But I think right now, I think all the evangelicals are probably still behind Trump. And I mean, honestly, Pence has not been kind of a very forefront or vocal figure in the Trump administration. He's just kind of been how I would think Trump would want his vice president to be, or how any president would want their vice president to be. Very loyal, always supportive, and kind of there to just promote the brand of the president. So let's see what Christopher's saying. I asked you previously if you thought Minnesota would go red before Georgia went blue. Do you still feel the same? Right now, I definitely think that Georgia is. Oh, Christopher, thank you for the super chat there. I definitely think that I want to change my mind here. Looking at Georgia, there's been a lot of polls that have Biden up +2, +3, and I mean several polls. I think right now that Trump still has a slight advantage in Georgia, but I mean earlier when I was saying that I thought Minnesota would go red before Georgia would go blue was when Minnesota was definitely kind of trending in the Trump column. This was in late August. But I think right now we've seen in the polls that Trump is down double digits in the state of Minnesota, and Georgia is about even. And I honestly think that the Senate races in Georgia not helping President Trump right now with Kelly Woolford and Doug Collins. It's going to be a very contested Republican primary. Both of them are trying to go to the kind of the extreme right, because I mean that's kind of what you do in a primary. If you're in the Democrats, try to get as far left, and if you're a Republican, get as far right. And I think Georgia is a state that is definitely trending to the left. I think it's getting more diverse. I think a lot of people are kind of moving to the urban areas in Atlanta. There's a lot of jobs there, a lot of internships. I think that urban area is kind of growing at a higher rate than the rural areas, which would be more Trump friendly. Kimberly Freeman, thank you for the support. I appreciate that comment right there. But Christopher, I would just end with Minnesota was a state that was kind of on Trump's radar at first. I don't think he's putting as much money into the advertising there, because I mean Minnesota is a state that Trump doesn't need to win. Trump definitely does need to win Georgia, but also on the flip side, Biden doesn't necessarily need to win Georgia. But I think that we're seeing, because Biden is getting more money right now, that he is going to invest money in states that Trump probably isn't. So I just saw that Trump pulled money out of Iowa, Ohio, and I don't think he's really ever been putting money into Georgia. So these are all states that Trump needs to win, and I think he's up just by a narrow margin in all three of these states. So I think what Trump's logic is here is he doesn't want to waste money on states that he's up in. He kind of wants to use his money in states that he needs to win. So I get it. But I mean, definitely some polls out of Georgia, Ohio, and Iowa that don't look great for the president. Christopher says, I got to go bail watch the debate with some friends. Glad to see you back there, and good luck with the job interviews. Thank you very much. If I don't know if most of you are younger or older, but definitely the job interview process is very, very stressful. So I think that's part of the reason why I haven't been as good about making videos every day. But in this next week, I'm definitely going to try to post some videos, because I mean, since my last video, so many things have changed. I still haven't made a video since Trump has gotten COVID. And I think we've kind of really seen a post-debate slip in the polls by Trump. Is that due to kind of his debate performance? Is that due to him contracting COVID? I mean, there's a host of different reasons. Is that due to Biden just not completely failing at the debates, which I think expected? But if we look at the betting odds, we can see that Biden is at his best that he has ever been in the betting odds. Biden was up pretty high kind of in end of June. And this was kind of right at the height of the Black Lives Matter protests. And if you remember, kind of Trump had that photo up in front of the church that was kind of widely condemned by different people. And some people were saying, let's see what Gleb burst. Do you feel the average voter has sympathy for Trump illness, would rather not vote for him to keep him out of 4 stressful years, or that's not very logical? I don't think that anyone like who would have supported Trump is going to say like, oh, I don't want to vote for Trump because I don't want to have him a stressful time. I think Trump definitely wants to win. Whether that's because he thinks he can like implement great policies or he really loves the job, I don't know. I think part of it is just because he wants to win. But I mean, it's really hard to know. I mean, on Twitter, we've been seeing these videos that Trump actually looks pretty good. But I mean, he just contracted COVID on Saturday, and I mean, the people who I know who've had COVID have been in quarantine for 2 weeks. They've lost their so I mean, I definitely think it impacts people differently. I definitely think that Trump has had the best treatment that he has. I do think that this second presidential debate is going to go on as planned if Trump can get a negative test and prove that he is not contagious. Because I mean, obviously, that would be a political nightmare if Trump gave COVID to Biden. I think Biden's definitely more at risk from for dying of COVID. I mean, obviously, no one wants to wish that either presidential candidate, but I mean, so let's see. So what has a more chance of flipping blue, Iowa or Ohio? Um, right now, I would probably say Ohio, but I mean, I just saw a poll out of Iowa today, a Quinnipiac poll that had Biden up by 5, and same on the Senate level. I think Joni Ernst might pull Trump down a little bit in Iowa, but I really don't think that we're going to see the Senate races impact the presidential elections that much, except maybe in the state of Arizona, when I think there's kind of the biggest difference between the presidential polling difference and kind of the Senate polling difference. Um, Iowa and Ohio both went about 9 to 10 points for Trump in 2016. So that's why I'm just really shocked that they're so close right now. I mean, yes, they were fairly close in 2016. The poll Trump just outperformed them. I do think Trump is going to outperform the polls. Like if I had to guess today, I would say that Trump is going to win the both the state of Iowa and Ohio. I mean, even though that some polls definitely have Biden up. Because I mean, I definitely still think there is kind of the shy voter effect, especially in the Rust Belt. However, I mean, definitely Trump has lost support from what he had in 2016, and we can speculate on the reasons for that. But I don't think there is denying that he's definitely lost support. And I mean, I've seen it anecdotally, kind of through. I follow the Republican voters against Trump. Just, I mean, people saying like, I voted for Trump in 2016. This was why, but I can't do it in 2020. And I think that the question is that we're going to ask is, are there going to be any Hillary Clinton voters that are going to vote for Trump? I don't think that's very the increased voter turnout in the Rust Belt for people who didn't vote for him in 2016. And I think this could come from a couple groups of people who've just never voted ever. But they're starting to see people around them kind of rally against Trump. And then also maybe people who just didn't think Trump had a chance in 2016, so there wasn't any point in voting for him. However, I think there's going to be more people kind of on the other side, more Clinton, potential Clinton voters who stayed home because they just thought that she was kind of a shoe-in to win. I think that there's going to be more people like that to turn out for Biden. And that's why I do think right now that Biden does have a better chance than Trump. Um, let's see. So classic Americana said that Trump has gained support. I would definitely kind of want to look at what groups that you're looking at, because like I mean I don't blindly trust the polls, but I mean there haven't really been any actually. Okay, this is what I can say. Trump has made up ground with the Hispanic population, which is going to be the highest minority group going into 2020. So this definitely could matter in states like Arizona and in Florida. Let's see alternate and real election predictions. What type of margin do you think Joe Biden will win if he were to win Florida as well as Trump? I think Florida's gonna be within 1 point on either side. Florida's always close, even in Barack Obama's landslide victory in 2008. Barack Obama only won Florida by about it was less than 2 points. So I mean, Florida's just always going to be close. And I mean, that was the same election where Obama won Indiana and almost won Missouri. And I mean, obviously in 2000 it was very close. 2004, every election is very close. Trump won Florida by 1.1 or 1.2. In the 2018 midterms, I was actually pretty surprised by that. The Republicans won by very small margins. Like I think it was under 0.5, so it would be eligible for a recount. So in 2020, if Biden does win, I think 538 has him winning by 2 points. I don't think it's going to be that much either way. I mean, we've seen polls that has Trump up by 4 of A plus pollster. I think it was ABC, Washington Post, and then we've also seen polls that have Biden up by 4 or 5 points. So I really don't think that in the state of Florida we can put much emphasis or credit into one individual poll. just because I think we've seen on the aggregate of these polls that there's polls on either side that have Biden up or they have Trump up. And I mean, pretty good pollsters. I mean, it's not just like Rasmussen polls. But yeah, so and Shane Patterson, I swear that I wasn't plagiarizing you, but Florida's going by less than a point either way. Wow, 538 projects Biden by 3.5 in Florida. I do not buy that by any means. I do think that there is good work that 538 does, but 3.5 points. In fact, I'm gonna kind of check what the margins exactly are in terms of like what the percentage like is Biden above 50%. But I mean, I really don't buy that at all right now. So yeah, it's 3.5 points. Wow. I don't think that Biden's going to get above 50%. I mean, no president in modern history has gotten above 50% in Florida. I don't even think Barack Obama did. So that's interesting. So, do you think Cal Cunningham's scandal will hurt him or will cost him the election? Do you think his voters care at all? So, I mean, I think that's something very, very interesting. I mean, I definitely had Cal Cunningham having a small advantage. Right now, I think North Carolina is a complete toss-up on the Senate level. I don't think that an affair matters as much as it did in the past. I mean, I think in the past, affairs in politics very, very important. Front page of kind of the tabloids, but I think now, kind of in this era, these things don't matter as much. I mean, I obviously on a personal level, I think affairs are super, super bad, and I mean, I think that voters should definitely be able to consider it. I think right now, kind of in the Trump era, that Democrats just kind of hate Republicans and Trump so much that they don't really care as much. I mean, I think this would also, you could say this on the Republican side too. But yeah, and we saw that. I mean, I never would have expected Cal Cunningham to drop out. I mean, that's just not possible. I mean, I think some people were calling for Donald Trump to drop out after the Access Hollywood stuff, and he did it. And I think that's worse, definitely, than in a fair. But I mean, I think it's also pretty bad because like I live in North Carolina, so I see these Cal Cunningham ads, and he's with his family a lot, and like, I mean, this affair happened very, very recently, like during the campaign. I think 100 days before the campaign. And so I mean, I think with Tom Tillis getting COVID, with Trump getting COVID, that might have kind of overshadowed the effect of this. Maybe the people who released this, I mean, I'm assuming that they want Tom Tillis to win. Maybe they should have sat on it for a little while and waited closer to the election. But definitely. All right, so Class Americana, thanks for reminding me that this debate is about to start. And then with the South Carolina Senate race, I'll kind of talk about this more later. I think right now it's honestly pure toss-up. I think Lindsey Graham has, I mean, this should be a very, very winnable seat for the Republicans. I do kind of put the blame on Lindsey Graham for kind of losing the seat. I mean, Jamie Harrison has run a pretty good campaign, but I mean, it's South Carolina. Like, Lindsey Graham as a Republican, I mean, I think it's kind of crazy that this is even kind of being talked about as a toss-up, because I mean, when Tim Scott was up for re-election, I mean, he won it by a pretty substantial margin. All right, I'm gonna go right now. I encourage y'all to watch the debate, and please come back. I'm gonna do a post-debate reaction, so definitely be here for that. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see y'all later.